During the hearing, prosecutors called this one of the most brutal and heinous crimes ever in Harford County's history. To that point, they revealed in court that during the attack, Rachel suffered 10 to 15 head wounds, and her manner of death was strangulation and blunt force trauma.
Imagine going for an evening run on a trail you've walked dozens of times before. The sun is beginning to disappear. The air is cool. Families are finishing dinner. Children are getting ready for bed. You expect to be home in an hour. Then you vanish. No warning, no screams, no witnesses running toward the scene. Just silence. And somewhere in the growing darkness of a peaceful community trail, a mother of 5 disappears forever. By the time people realize something is wrong, precious hours have already passed. Search teams begin arriving. Flashlights cut through the trees. Voices echo into the woods. People call her name again and again. Nobody knows it yet, but this search is about to uncover one of the most heartbreaking crimes in recent American history. Because the woman who never returned home was Rachel Morin, and what happened to her would devastate a family, terrify a community, and trigger an investigation that would eventually stretch across multiple states and reveal a predator hiding in plain sight. If you like stories like this, please hit the like and subscribe button. It tremendously helps us grow and do better. Thank you for your support. Long before Rachel became the center of national headlines, she was simply a mother trying to build a life for her children. Friends described her as energetic, determined, the kind of person who seemed to carry endless amounts of love for the people around her. She loved music. She enjoyed being outdoors. Exercise was one of the ways she cleared her mind and escaped the pressures of daily life. Most of all, she loved being a mother. Raising 5 children demanded nearly everything she had: time, energy, patience, sacrifice. There were struggles, financial difficulties, personal challenges, the ordinary hardships that come with trying to hold a large family together. But the people closest to Rachel often described someone who refused to quit. She laughed easily. She checked on people. She worried about her children. She celebrated small victories. And despite life's complications, she kept moving forward. No one realized it at the time, but those ordinary qualities would become incredibly important. Because when someone like Rachel disappears, people notice immediately. She wasn't the kind of person who vanished without explanation. She answered calls. She checked in with family. She returned home. People depended on her. 5 children depended on her. And on the evening she went to the Ma and Pa Trail, nothing suggested she would never return.
Ma and Pa Trail in Bel Air, Harford County, and there's a lot of concern here after Rachel Morin was found dead along the trail. Police believe there was foul play involved, that she was murdered.
The trail itself appeared harmless, beautiful even, the kind of place communities are proud to have. People walked there, ran there, biked there. Families visited. Children played nearby. It represented health, peace, routine, safety. And perhaps that's what makes this story so disturbing.
I come here almost every single day, and I walk in the morning, and it's like, you and I were talking about, it's like Zen. It's like a meditative experience. It's quiet, it's beautiful, you're in touch with nature.
The setting and the crime feel completely incompatible. Nothing about the trail suggested violence. Nothing about the evening suggested danger. Yet danger was there, waiting. As Rachel headed onto the trail, She likely believed she was doing something ordinary, something she'd done before, something millions of people do every day. She expected to return home. Instead, somewhere along that path, something happened, something so sudden and violent that it would permanently alter the lives of everyone who loved her. As darkness approached, concern slowly began replacing normalcy. Rachel wasn't answering messages. She wasn't responding to calls. She wasn't home. At first, they were reasonable explanations. Perhaps she lost her phone. Perhaps she stayed out longer than expected. Perhaps something had delayed her. But the longer the silence lasted, the more alarming it became. The people closest to Rachel felt it. Something wasn't right. A search began. Family, friends, volunteers, police. Flashlights illuminated patches of trail, while voices called into the darkness. Searching for a missing person in the woods at night is unlike almost anything else. Every sound captures your attention. Every shadow looks suspicious. Every movement creates hope, then disappointment, then hope again. You expect to find someone confused, lost, injured. You don't expect to discover evidence of violence. But investigators would later discover exactly that. And what happened next changed everything. Evidence on the trail suggested Rachel had encountered something far more serious than an accident. The atmosphere shifted immediately. The search was no longer simply about finding a missing woman. It was about finding out what had happened to her. Search areas expanded. Additional resources were called. The urgency intensified. Then came the moment everyone feared. Searchers discovered Rachel's body. The news spread quickly. Shock gave way to heartbreak. A mother had left for an evening run and never returned. 5 children had lost their mother. A family had lost someone they loved deeply, and a community lost its sense of safety. Almost immediately, investigators transformed the area into a homicide scene. Every inch of ground became important. Every footprint, every disturbance in the vegetation, every possible trace of evidence. Because homicide investigations often become races against time. Evidence disappears, memories fade, opportunities vanish, and investigators knew they needed answers quickly. Yet there was one enormous problem. Nobody seemed to know who had attacked Rachel. No obvious suspect emerged. No witness came forward saying they had seen the crime. No one heard yearning screams. No one described seeing someone running away. It was as though violence had erupted and disappeared without anyone noticing. The contradiction was horrifying. A brutal attack had occurred in a place many people considered safe, and no one seemed to know who had done it. Questions multiplied. Did Rachel know her attacker? Was she specifically targeted? Had someone been watching the trail? Was this random? Investigators didn't have answers, yet. But they did have something incredibly important: evidence. Forensic teams carefully processed the scene, and among the evidence collected was something that would eventually become the cornerstone of the entire case: DNA. To detectives, DNA can become the voice of a victim. It can reveal relationships, establish connections, identify offenders, and expose lies. At first, however, the profile belonged to an unknown person. Someone had left genetic evidence behind, someone connected to Rachel's final moments. But detectives had no name, no face, no location, just a genetic signature and an enormous question. Who was this person? The investigation intensified. Tips poured in. Media coverage expanded. The story spread nationwide. And for Rachel's family, every update created another wave of emotion: hope, fear, anticipation, exhaustion. Because somewhere out there was a person who knew exactly what happened on that trail. Somewhere there was someone who could explain why a mother of 5 never came home. But that person remained invisible. Then came the breakthrough. Investigators identified a suspect, Victor Antonio Martinez Hernandez. The name itself meant little to the public, but to detectives, it changed everything. Because now they had something they hadn't had before: direction. At last, the unknown DNA profile belonged to an actual person. At last, the investigation had a face. At last, detectives knew who they were looking for. But there was one problem. He wasn't there. The suspect had disappeared, and once again, time became the enemy. Authorities launched a massive search effort.
Tips poured in. Investigators tracked movements, examined records, followed leads. Information crossed jurisdictions. Agencies coordinated efforts. The search expanded beyond the local community because the stakes were enormous. If investigators were correct, the person responsible for Rachel's death was still free, and history has repeatedly shown what can happen when violent offenders remain unidentified. Communities stay afraid, families remain trapped in uncertainty, and the possibility of future violence never fully disappears. Meanwhile, Rachel's family continued trying to process the unimaginable. The headlines described evidence, DNA, investigations, suspects, but behind every headline was a family living a very different reality. 5 children no longer had their mother. Birthdays suddenly looked different. Holidays suddenly felt incomplete. Ordinary moments carried extraordinary pain. The world moved forward. Their grief did not. There is something especially cruel about violent loss. It interrupts life, not only for the victim, but for everyone connected to them. Rachel's children would continue growing. They would continue experiencing important milestones, but every future moment would carry an absence. Every celebration would include someone missing. Every memory would contain a painful realization. She should be here. That is the true cost of homicide. The damage does not end at the crime scene. It radiates outward, touching children, parents, friends, entire communities. And while Rachel's family tried to navigate that reality, investigators remained focused on one objective: finding the suspect. Then, finally, it happened. Authorities located Victor Antonio Martinez Hernandez. The arrest marked a major turning point. After months of uncertainty, investigators finally had the person they believed was responsible. News of the arrest spread rapidly. For many people, it brought relief, because uncertainty can be exhausting. Questions can become overwhelming. The idea that someone may have committed such violence and simply disappeared can haunt entire communities. An arrest changes that. It creates accountability. It creates answers, or at least the possibility of answers. But for Rachel's family, the emotions were far more complicated. Relief existed, certainly, but so did sorrow. Because arrests do not reverse tragedy. They do not restore lost time. They do not return mothers to their children, and they do not erase trauma. They simply begin another chapter, the courtroom chapter. And sometimes that chapter can be almost as difficult as the first.
trials force families to revisit every painful detail, every photograph, every testimony, every piece of evidence. They hear things they wish they never had to hear. They see images they wish they never had to see, and they relive moments they have spent months trying to survive. Rachel's family endured exactly that. The proceedings painted an incredibly painful picture. Prosecutors argued that Rachel had simply gone out for exercise, an ordinary evening, a familiar trail, a normal routine. Then violence entered her life without warning.
A jury of 10 men and 2 women just about an hour to find the defendant guilty of premeditated first-degree murder, first-degree rape, third-degree assault, and kidnapping. Under tight security, I heard gasps and sniffs as the jury was polled. Prosecutors say the evidence was overwhelming. It included DNA and witness testimony strongly implicating the defendant. Now, the defendant himself didn't show any obvious signs of a reaction. The state is seeking life in prison without the possibility of parole. Prosecutor Allison Healy, who will have a statement or two in the next few minutes or so right here, said in her closing arguments that Rachel lived her worst nightmare that day, and she never got to wake up and tell anyone. She continued, her body told us what happened and who did it. She did tell her story.
As evidence was presented, DNA once again became the centerpiece of the case. Forensic science has transformed modern criminal investigations. Biological evidence can preserve truth long after memories fade. Witnesses may forget. People may lie. Timelines may become distorted. DNA does not. In this case, it became the voice of the victim. The evidence established connections. It identified relationships, and prosecutors argued it ultimately revealed the person responsible. The jury listened, examined evidence, considered testimony, and eventually reached its decision: guilty. For Rachel's family, the verdict carried enormous significance. Justice had finally arrived, but justice and healing are not the same thing.
A suspect hiding in the woods, and possibly the last time Rachel Morin was seen alive. Those bombshell new details all came out during testimony today from witnesses for the prosecution. The defendant hid in the woods, armed with a shovel, waiting for 37-year-old Rachel Morin to pass by on her usual Ma trail run. That's according to the state and testimony from state witnesses today.
What we may expect to hear is that there was DNA on that shovel, so that would connect it back to the crime.
The lead detective said based on Morin's iPhone, Apple Watch, and surveillance video, the crime took place at 7:09 p.m., April 5th, 2023. In the 6 o'clock hour, a dog walker said he saw a man standing in the woods holding a shovel and acting sneaky. That was 30 seconds and a few hundred feet before he said he saw Rachel Morin. She was alone. She was jogging. She had her headphones in, he said. 2 days later, he said, I saw the news and her photo, and my heart sank immediately.
This goes to that premeditation, that lying in wait for Rachel to come along the path to ultimately attack her.
Just one AirPod was recovered, according to testimony so far. No word if its mate was the GPS device constantly pinging for the next week, but the lieutenant who went looking for it said he found the shovel along the small paths connecting the Ma trail to nearby homes and businesses, including the Popeyes and Barrett's on the Pike, where the state says the defendant worked before and after the murder. He remained in the area, prosecutors say, and the people he lived with are expected to testify as soon as tomorrow.
Justice is a legal outcome. Healing is something entirely different. Healing takes years, sometimes decades, sometimes it never fully happens, because there are losses that permanently alter people. Losing a parent can become one of those losses. Losing a child can become one of those losses. Losing someone suddenly and violently often changes families forever. And perhaps nowhere was that reality more apparent than in Rachel's children, because long after media coverage ends, long after cameras disappear, long after headlines fade, children still grow up. Questions still exist, memories still matter, and grief continues. From a behavioral perspective, the case revealed something deeply uncomfortable. Violent offenders frequently exploit ordinary circumstances. They rely on familiarity. They rely on predictability. They rely on victims believing they are safe. The Ma and Pa trail looked peaceful. The evening looked ordinary. Nothing appeared threatening, yet extraordinary violence occurred there. That contradiction is difficult to accept because it challenges assumptions people carry every day. A life interrupted, 5 children growing up without their mother, a family carrying an absence that cannot be filled, friends remembering laughter that no longer exists, a community forever associating a peaceful trail with unimaginable loss.
On Monday, the jury in the Rachel Morin murder trial was shown graphic photos of the victim, her injuries, and the crime scene. The images, some quite gruesome, published to a pair of big TV screens in the second-floor courtroom during testimony from witnesses for the prosecution. A volunteer searcher said she and a friend followed a path of bloody rocks and leaves to find Rachel Morin's body in a storm tunnel near the Ma and Pa Trail. The jury also heard that volunteer's frantic call to 911 alerting police to the crime scene, and testimony from detectives who secured that scene and collected evidence from it, including hair, blood, feces, and DNA swabs from the victim's body and the walls of the tunnel.
I noticed that they were crying a little bit, and they certainly, some of them it's tough for them, some of them they can't look at them. The others want to see because they want to be able to sort of get through this part of the grieving process of seeing how bad it was, and now they have some, I guess, security or knowing in their mind what exactly happened so they can move past it.
Rachel Morin was a mother, a daughter, a friend, a woman trying to build a life. She went out for an evening run, and she never came home.